Good evening and welcome everyone, including those joining us on Facebook and YouTube Live. I am Zidan Plummer and I am looking forward to a great week. And we're starting off here with family time. And family time is about your issues and your relationships. It's about your at home family, your community family, and the global family. Family Time is produced by Family Life Ministries, and our aim is to enable healthy families, which will lead to healthy nations. So stay with us and please join in via our various platforms Facebook and YouTube, which are live, and you can also follow us on Instagram. Our topic of discussion today is becoming a father. That's right, becoming a father. Literally, the first man on earth, Adam, was the first father in the Bible. Have you ever thought about that? But guess what? It also means he had no example to follow when his kids came along. Are you prepared for fatherhood? Who or what is directing your actions? And what do you consider as you look forward to becoming a father? Adam had to lean into his relationship with his heavenly father. But before we get into all that, let's see what we should be doing now as we look forward to becoming dads. What is the role of a father to be? What does a man in these months or if maybe years that he should be doing as he prepares for this significant role? And let's face it, sometimes it can be daunting. So while you are considering these things, maybe you want to invite someone who is just about that stage where they're thinking about becoming a father or they're on their way already. And while we do that, I'd want to invite you to tell us, what are you looking forward to most when you become a father? You can send your responses via WhatsApp text or voice notes. Make sure they're no longer than 30 seconds. And you can send those WhatsApp messages to 876 997 3125. Or you can call in. The studio lines are 876 968 8327 or 876 968 8328 to participate. You can also watch us and comment live on Love 101 Facebook and YouTube. We'll be right back with our special guest for this evening, Claudine Anderson Atkinson and Elder Richard Brown. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Tune in to Love 101 FM this Monday at 9:15 a.m. to hear What's on My Mind.
This week on The Rock, we'll look at the miracles that all have to do with water, like Jesus turning water to wine and Jesus walking on water. Tuesday, June 13 on The Rock, join host Bishop Harold Steve Bear and guest Reverend Christopher Broadbear as they discuss the topic Miracles of the Bible, Water Wonders. That's The Rock, Tuesday, June 13 at 10 a.m. here on the family station Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
Welcome back to Family Time on Love 101. We're discussing the topic becoming a father. And I'd like to welcome our special guest for this evening, Miss Claudine Anderson Atkinson. She's a counseling psychologist, and also Elder Richard Brown. He's an IT business analyst, a former national hockey player. And guess what? He is a father to be. That's right. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Good evening.
Great. Glad to have you. And how are you doing, Dr. Anderson Atkinson? We're not hearing you, Dr. Anderson. I think you have to unmute there.
Are you hearing me
There
now?
we go. Yes, loud and clear.
Sorry about that. I'm saying I'm excited for the discussion and feeling, excited about being here this evening.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Now, remember, we want to hear from you, our male audience. What are you looking forward to the most when you become a father? WhatsApp your text and voice notes. Make sure they're no longer than 30 seconds. The 876-997-3125. Or you can watch us on Facebook and YouTube live and leave your comments. Well, let's get going right into it. Of course, the most famous father in the scriptures is, of course, not any human at all, but the Bible refers to God as our heavenly Father, and he gives us a great example that we ought to follow. But the Bible also shares the joys and the hardships that biblical fathers endured and enjoyed. And so we want to find out, how do we prepare to become good fathers? Fathers that our sons can look up to, our daughters can look up to. And we want to start with Dr. Anderson Atkinson. Who is a father?
Well, a father. So we have biological fathers, and we have fathers who have adopted children, and this can be formal or informal. So,
Right.
in order to father, in this contemporary age, sometimes we're using different language, but in the strictest terms, we need to be male and be assuming the parenting role of um, leading, providing, securing minors who are depending on us. Oh, well, I'm not a father, but depending on fathers for that role. So a father is male, has minors under his charge, and is usually assuming several roles. So
Mhm.
both providing leadership, spiritual leadership and mentorship, emotional mentorship and leadership, and just being a band around his family.
I like that. I like that the role of the father encompasses different areas of life, and he must step up to these roles. Elder Brown, can you share who is a father in your opinion?
I said, I think a father is someone who plays that role. Um, have given guidance, you know, uh, uh, parental support, and I think that's that general guidance, that sense of of who a man is. I think that's the role of a father. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. That there's a thing now in our society where there's a challenge to define a role, and sometimes that can be a difficult task. But I'm glad to hear that we we have managed somewhat, albeit in a brief or concise manner, but we've done it nonetheless. Dr. Anderson Atkinson, you mentioned we have different types of fathers. Uh, the preparation process, is it different for a father who is biological, or is it different for ones who have stepped in as foster or adopted someone? What's the preparation process like?
Well, it depends. So in the classic process where the two join together and have planned for a child, there is the biological father has time to mentally, spiritually, and emotionally prepare for that role, and to partner with his wife, his the mother of the child, to prepare for the responsibilities that parenting includes. And so that means financially, we know children are expensive. And
Very.
so preparing to assume the role of a father means, making sure that you're financially able to assume some of those roles. So we are talking the preferred way of becoming a father, because we know people get to fatherhood through different
Yes.
roots. There are fathers who have fatherhood thrust upon them, and then there are fathers who choose to and pursue fatherhood, and then there are fathers who are not biological, but who, because of circumstances, because of a call to fatherhood, because minors need that kind of leadership and provision, assume that role. And so when it's a biological father, usually if you've prepared for that child, you're counting down for that child, at least you have an emotional sense, a child is coming and I've chosen that path. And so you have the opportunity to financially prepare, to emotionally start that process. We know it gets real only when the child has arrived in many instances, but there's a sense of kind of revisiting what kind of father am I to be. So often kind of counseling with and getting mentorship from other men who have assumed those roles. And some of the excellent fathers didn't have excellent fathers themselves, and so counseling
Yeah.
with other men and women who can provide that leadership. And then those who choose to become fathers because of circumstances, then having to adapt and calibrate in the moment to assume the similar responsibilities. So the responsibilities are the same, but how you prepare and when you prepare is going to be a function of your route to fatherhood.
Yeah, I like that you touched on the financial responsibility because let's face it, in Jamaica, that appears to be one of the daunting responsibilities that men often shy away from. Elder Brown, from your perspective as a father to be, what practical steps do men take in really taking up that mantle? We know everyone will be at a different socioeconomic status, but that didn't stop many of the forefathers and our ancestors from taking up that role. So how do we, as fathers to be, take up that role and really start planning from now?
Well, I would say that, well, first of all, I think fatherhood really is just responsibility. The first thing that you need to recognize is that you're responsible. Regardless of the circumstances that you're facing, you have a responsibility and a duty to perform, um, to love and to cherish and to care for that child. So financial wise, it really is something to think of. And to be honest, if you think of all the possible financial responsibilities, sometimes you'll kind of pull away from, kind of hold back from it. But I think even before you get to being a father, there's a kind of general financial responsibility that you need to have personally. Uh, um, in church on Sunday, the message was about financial prosperity from a different perspective, of course. And one of the things that was said was that you're a steward, and so you have to start out early as individuals, and especially as a male, to steward your finances in a kind of way that is healthy and biblical, and with the idea that at some point in time I might become a father. And so you prioritize those kind of responsibilities. You prioritize them as you go through life. I mean, you might be going to school, so perhaps that might be a high responsibility. But I think the most important part of it is just having a general discipline of money management, and when the time comes to keep applying that discipline, you know. And one of the things that we have to remember is that our relationship with God really, it really defines our entire life. And so even with finances, you might find yourself in a situation where you don't have all the finances for whatever the reason is. You could have made very good preparations, but you have come to a point where the finances would have, for whatever reason, are no longer available. And so you always need God from the very beginning, and even in the midst of it, you need to be guided by God and to know that you honor also your responsibility to serve God first. Matthew 6:33 is one of my favorite scriptures. I hope I'm not going too long as an elder, but that's Matthew 6:33. It says, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these
All other
things
things.
shall be added unto you." It's a very important scripture that takes you through all the phases of life, and so you have to ensure that that relationship with God, that priority that you have for the kingdom and for His righteousness, stays central. And the Lord, we have to depend on the Lord to see us through at all stages, whether you're very
Yes.
prepared.
Elder Brown, I have to just step in there because we have to go to a quick break, but we'll be right back. We're talking becoming a father on Family Time.
Do you have a heart condition? Your care should be in the hands of our experienced cardiovascular team at Partners Interventional Center of Jamaica. We're one of the leading heart centers for angiogram, stenting, pacemakers, EP studies, and ablation therapy. PICJ has the expertise and latest technology to treat all your heart needs. Call 876-995-7425 or email info@pic-jm.com for appointments. PICJ, your partners for life.
Importers. Shipments requiring you to pay customs duties and taxes are cleared on a customs goods declaration, known as an IM4 or IMS4. Ask your clearing agent to provide your customs declaration, customs assessment notice, and customs receipt once duties and taxes are paid. Where your clearing agent may not be able to provide the IM4 or IMS4, request your customs goods declaration registration number or C number, which can be used to verify your payments. Importers, request your IM4, IMS4, or C number. It is your right. For details, email the Jamaica Customs Agency at public.relations@jca.gov.jm. Jamaica Customs, keeping our customers in focus.
Educom does it again with the mega car loan sale. 100% financing, interest rate of 6.95% and up to 10 years to repay. Hurry now and visit any of our 9 branches. Call Educom at 876-926-6973 or WhatsApp 876-559-7575 for more info. Educom Cooperative Credit Union Limited. Value through service.
We can light up your world. Raise up the sun, putting your energy in the palm of your hand.
For over 20 years, Foxwitch has been putting a world of energy in your hands. Now we bring you big savings with our line of solar energy products and LED lighting. Financing now available for all your home and commercial retrofit projects. Consult with our in-house staff or certified professional engineers for all your electrical needs. Foxwitch lifestyle. It's electric. Foxwitch, your energy world.
Has it ever happened to you that you're scrolling on social media, spending the afternoon, and suddenly you accidentally give your crush a like? Don't get heated. Pull out with a Sprite. Share and leave them a direct message. Who knows? They might even answer you. Sprite.
Cubby's Baby Wipes is ideal for your baby's delicate skin, infused with vitamin E and aloe vera, and available for home or on the go. The time by Cubby's Baby Wipes is
5:48. Welcome back to Family Time. We are with our guests this evening, Dr. Claudine Anderson Atkinson and Elder Richard Brown, and we're discussing becoming a father. Just before the break, we were hearing Elder Brown speak about the responsibility attached to being a father, and we have a message here from WhatsApp. It says, "Good afternoon. I really look forward to being the blueprint for my children, where my son can say, I want to be like daddy. I see how he," that's the father, "loves mommy and how he provides for the family. On the other hand, my daughter would say, my husband must be like my dad, being that she would have seen and experienced how a lady should be treated." And that's the kind of preparation process. He's already thinking about what the role he will play for not only his son or his daughter, but whatever gender he's blessed with, he is preparing to really shoulder that responsibility. Yes, Elder Brown, you were sharing about the fact that there is a responsibility attached to fatherhood, and also we need to depend on God. Can you elaborate on that dependence? What does it look like in a practical sense?
I think the dependence really, the core of it really is maintaining your Christian walk. It can be as simple as that. The spiritual aspect of your life, having that close relationship with God, your devotional life, that connection with God is important. And, being a part of a church, a fellowship, because I find that in many things in life, and I assume in parenting, because I'm not really a father yet, I'm assuming person that I'm going to need, some help, some guidance.
Definitely.
So having that fellowship with healthy persons who can give you that kind of guidance is important. So those are I think, a part of the whole spiritual experience, devotional life, your connection with God, your fellowship, where you fellowship and having that kind of support. And also, I think also I'd push to say being involved in ministry, because it's important to attend church, but being involved in church also, I think, is a
Connected.
keep you connected, and keeps your faith alive. Because definitely that's something that I don't want my child to see as well. That I'm not just attending church, but I go to church and I'm involved in church activities. So I think that's an idea of what the preparation for that responsibility looks like.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Dr. Anderson Atkinson, I once heard a father when I was in my teen years. I once heard a father to be say that he warned me against having twins, because he said just thinking about it, he just knows everything is going to be double, and he just lamented it. So there's a psychological preparation that
Yes.
the fathers to be must undergo. What does that look like? Is it just reading books? Is it talking to fathers who are senior? What does that look like?
It's that and more. Because if we think about fatherhood as a mirror, or
Hmm.
experience of fatherhood helps prepare us for how we'll father, whether we're conscious of it or not. And so it's going to be important for us to revisit our experiences of our biological or adopted fathers, and how they engaged us, and hence the frame of reference that we take, that men take to how they will actually father. Because whether you've consciously made the decision, whether you're prepared or not, you're now in the throes of it. And so needing to recalibrate so that you can, establish a positive attachment relationship to this child. Because what we're seeing empirically is that both with boys and girls, like their emotional, physical, spiritual, even academic health and well-being is going to be dependent on your emotional, financial, physical presence. And so one of the ways that you can prepare psychologically for the role of fathering is kind of noticing your own relationship with your father. And for some fathers, it's going to be helpful for you to have some mental health support, not just if you were in you had traumatic experiences with your father, or he was rejecting, or some fathers, some children experience abandonment, and that translates into even the fear. So there's a natural anxiety to the new role, and but some men are so anxious and bewildered and confused and overwhelmed because they didn't experience a positive experience of encounter with their own fathers. And so one of the resource that men can pull on as they prepare for their roles and as they navigate their roles is to utilize mental health resources. And then the next is to be really exercise lots of self-compassion with yourself. This is a new experience. It's a steep learning curve, but children are very forgiving if they sense that you love them and you mean to do them
Yes.
well. And when you surround yourself with a community of cheerleaders, men and women your age and older, you can get lots of wisdom that you can pull on. So there's professional resources, there's your community, there's your family, having to recalibrate your roles, but know that the emotional piece is cannot be spoken of highly enough, because we create the templates, the attachment templates that our children will will pull on themselves.
Yeah. So you're saying essentially that along with that responsibility to prepare, the father also has to plug himself into a avenue where he's supported, not only at hearing the news, but also for those moments when he himself is anxious.
Yes.
And I'm just very interested about that fact where he said that moment where he said to use fatherhood as a mirror. Many fathers to be may not have a good relationship with their father, and sometimes that can create, as you said, a sense of anxiety. Also, it can also make them very hard on themselves. Richard, what has been the relationship with you and your father, and how have you used it to really navigate this time as you prepare to be a father?
Well, in preparing to come on, I thought that that might be a question that would be asked of me.
Mm,
And, I one of the things that I try to do to capture memories is just to, I try a little bit at poetry at times. And so there's a poem I have called St. Joseph Avenue. And I'm not going to recite it, but the idea of the poetry is that St. Joseph Avenue is where my father spent his last days because our relationship with him was not that good. And for those of us who know St. Joseph Avenue in Kingston, it's where the government Golden Age home is. And so my relationship with my father, I was the last of the 12 children. And so my relationship with him was better than many of the others. And as I grew older, I began to learn the stories and the abuse, the challenges that, you'd have seen some of it growing up, but my father ended up in a government golden age home because his children, I guess that we really, part of it of his own doing, because he'd rather that, but part of it also because he had a disjointed relationship with us as children. I saw a better side of my father as a kind of, as Jamaicans would call it, the wash belly.
mhm.
Um, you see a different side of my father, and I was able to come to terms with some of it because one of the things that, as a Christian, and this is why your faith is important in terms of dealing with your parents and looking at what your parents have gone through. You ask yourself, what is it that, why would my father have been the person that he was? And, I start to look into all that, and, you realize that there are challenges that he had. And so I, in essence, when I look into the mirror, I see some of him every now and then because you see your different siblings even, and it's good that I've come to peace to know that with him, and
Mm,
so it caused me to say yes. There are things that I say that I don't want. Definitely, I have a lot of examples that I say that's not what I want. The alcohol abuse, no, I don't want that. I don't want to be distracted from my children. And I think all of us as siblings came out of that relationship with a kind of flip side to what we would have seen. And
mm,
so I've heard before that, as I said, that I need to look into the mirror to see what I've learned from my father and what that relationship. And I've tried. And one of the things I think that is beneficial to, again, is being a part of a fellowship where I I can say that I've actually have other male figures who would have shown me a kind of opposite, and behavior. And I have a brother who was who has been like a kind of father figure to me,
yeah.
in showing me some of those things. So I think, yeah, that my relationship with my father, it was good because towards the end, I'd say good in terms of our relationship, we weren't at odds. But how he fathered us is not something that I'd want to emulate.
Yeah. Why, audience, listeners, we are hearing from Dr. Anderson Atkinson. She just provided the concept, and here we have Elder Brown showing the practical applications of it. I don't know if you can get it better than this. It's family time, and we're talking becoming a father. And we're asking you to contribute by sending a WhatsApp text or voice note responding to the question, what are you looking forward to the most when you become a father? You can send those WhatsApp messages to 876-997-3125. Or if you're watching us live on Facebook and YouTube, you can leave a comment. I'm sure both guests will be happy to respond to any of those questions you may send in. We will be back shortly after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Why should you save? You ever hear your grandmother say, one cocoa full basket? Well, it's true. Saving protects you. You should save for an emergency fund, which can come in handy in the event of illness, job loss, or unexpected financial shocks. Saving can help you manage your expenses and reduce financial stress. Saving provides you with financial freedom.
This financial literacy tip was brought to you by Bank of Jamaica, building an inclusive economy.
This is the Colgate Max Fresh Swing. 10 times longer. Lasting cool. Colgate Max Fresh. Healthy teeth brighter. Lasting cool. Colgate Max Fresh. Feel the freshness longer. Colgate Max Fresh. All right, my friends, it's time to try Colgate Max Fresh. What are you waiting for? Colgate Max Fresh.
This week on The Rock, we'll look at the miracles that all have to do with water, like Jesus turning water to wine and Jesus walking on water. Tuesday, June 13 on The Rock, join host Bishop Harold Steve Blair and guest Reverend Christopher Broadburr as they discuss the topic Miracles of the Bible, Water Wonders. That's The Rock, Tuesday, June 13 at 10 a.m. here on the family station Love 101, celebrating 30 years of music, family, and love.
It's just about 6 o'clock on family time on the Love 101, the family station. And the numbers for the Family Life Ministries head office in Kingston, just so you know, are 876-920-1034 or 876-926-8101. We're talking becoming a father with our guests, Dr. Anderson Atkinson and Elder Brown. I want to kind of take the discussion to a place where maybe I had not planned for it to go, but the discussion kind of just led me here. In Jamaica, we have this notion where some persons may say, a time for you get a youth, time for you get a youth, man, come off of the gelding truck. This kind of notion that you are not a man until you become a father. And then sometimes that pressure, you yield to it. As Dr. Anderson Atkinson said, you become a father through different routes. For that man who is now approaching fatherhood, having maybe not really wanted to be a father, and he's contemplating different options, Dr. Anderson Atkinson, what is the best approach for him now that he has found himself in this position, a blessed position, but from his perspective, he's just looking at that that baby to be, and he's just seeing dollar sign in his eyes, or maybe he's seeing something else that he doesn't really want to attach himself to just yet.
I think it's an invitation for him to pivot, to see that this new life stage can be a gift that can help him to assume a holistic view of himself and the legacy that he wants to have. Because whether you choose to play an active, critical role in your child's life or not, your father, whether you're going to take it on hands-on or not, your father. So you can choose to say, okay, so this was not a very intentional, planful decision, and yet I'm here. So what kind of father am I going to be? Because you're already a father, or you're already a father. So decide, where do you want to go? Because fatherhood is so much more than financial provision. The most significant gift that you can give your child is presence, emotional and physical presence. And regardless of the relationship that you have with the other parent, you can gift your child with your presence, and it can have long-standing emotional and physical and spiritual benefits. And so if you're at the point where this wasn't something that you chose eyes wide open, you can choose now to do something different with the future that you find yourself in. Because we can find meaning and purpose in unplanned things and events, and it's amazing how rewarding parenting can be. It's challenging, but it's also rewarding. There's so much growth, emotional, intellectual growth that can come from even the challenge that you rise to of being a parent. And so I guess I would invite the fathers who are fathers through circumstances that they didn't necessarily choose. Maybe they're having to work through the process of shock and all the feelings that come with this is not what I planned, and at the same time hopefully have a crowd of support that they can anchor themselves in. So where do I go at this point of the journey? Am I going to be a father that is present, or a father that is biologically related to this child but not present in any way? Because even if they don't make that choice, children always wonder where they're from and wonder about, the decision that a parent makes to not be involved. And so needing to kind of figure things out, organize our lives differently so that we can take on the not just a challenge, but the growth opportunity that comes with doing something that we didn't necessarily choose to, um, like we didn't intentionally take it on, but that can have lots of benefits as well.
Right. So there's a shifting of perspective and
Yes.
really moving towards taking on that challenge. I appreciate that response. Elder Brown, it is said that women, while they are pregnant, they become emotionally attached to the baby that is growing inside of them. It is almost impossible for them not to because of that close connection. As men are becoming fathers, it can be a little bit more difficult for them to grow attached. What is the process that as you become a father? Because I think sometimes when fathers or fathers to be rather may hear of this news, this great news, the mother is happy, she's overjoyed, she's looking forward to it, and that attachment grows over that period of the pregnancy. But maybe fathers are not so involved. But what role do they play during a pregnancy, and how do they really make that attachment grow strong over time?
Well, and again, I can only speak from the perspective of a father to be. I
That's the
think just
perspective we want.
um, so I could say, well, I could say for me, I think just being there, for the journey is important. Um, you just giving the support. I think um, there's some fun things that I've thought about. I don't want to do, like, just to um, you know I would say fun, but being a part of the doctor's visits and hearing the heartbeat, I think that really, and when I've realized recently by going to an ultrasound appointment with my wife that I'm actually in a very good seat, so I can actually look at the screen directly and I can see, and so, at the end of the ultrasound, sometimes they give you a little picture,
Right.
but that don't really, really, really don't really describe fully what you see just being there, looking at the movement and how quickly the baby is moving. So I think those things, being there for the journey, um, and being able to being a part of the whole thing will kind of forge a connection. I think on the lighter side, I think coming up with names also really helps a connection, which we've been going through some names. And so trying to, and then sometimes, just, referring to the baby using that name or those names. I know that some of the names actually cause eyebrows to raise that I suggested.
what
But
is one of those names, if you can share?
I don't know if I want to say it on camera, but
Okay, that's all right.
well, I
We'll
mean,
appreciate it.
like, I don't want to say it on camera, but I've thought of some crazy ones, like, mashing
Mhm.
both names together, kind of thing, that curly one that people do every now and then,
Right.
that may be one. So, so I think that part of it, and also at the other crazy thing that you might try to do, which I've tried, is to try to see if I can actually hear that heartbeat through my ears.
Mm.
So putting your ear on the tummy and, like, that I know where the doctor put the thing was somewhere here.
Right,
So we
right.
could hear the heartbeat, but I don't think it's that easy. So I think just being a part of the process and being there. I think also, I guess, as you said, naming the child, trying to communicate as best as they possibly can, is a way to kind of start to forge that emotional bond between you and that child.
Yeah, I like those experiences that you stated.
Mhm.
Dr. Anderson Atkinson, some of the things he stated there, I realized that they could be grouped almost to say that he's now moving this human that is growing in the womb towards really his son or his daughter.
Sure.
And what is the benefit of moving away from just this fetus or maybe just this growing human and really taking on that responsibility and viewing this blessing as his child, as a father to be.
Well, it helps with strengthening that identity as a father. You know, it shifts from being an idea to kind of being able to mentalize and visualize the life that is coming, the life that you're preparing for. So earlier I was mentioning, well, think about the father that you want to become, um, and the father that you're being, even as a child is in utero, and not just visualizing that, but even speaking that into being. Have conversations with your baby, and plan things together. With your baby, with the mother of your child, and it ceases to become an idea to a reality, and shifts you from, okay, so this is, I'm going to become a father at the birth of my child, to I'm a father. No, I'm a father now. As soon as I got confirmation, I am a father. And so my preparation starts. If it didn't start before because I didn't know what was happening, I've chosen it and I'm preparing now. I'm assuming that I'm building the emotional bonds. I'm making the physical preparation. I'm preparing my own mind. I'm speaking to being the promises. If you are a Christian or you're believing the word, there are promises that you can pull on and
Amen.
claim over not just yourself as a father, but over your family, as you have an amazing role as the protector and provider and the leader, the spiritual and emotional leader. And so begin to assume that as if it is already done, because it is already done.
Amen. Amen. I like that. We spoke about being what type of father you will be. Elder Brown, what type of father do you plan to be?
Well, I'm not sure in terms of what the different types are to choose from. Um, but I want to be a father that's there. Have fun with a child. I imagine, just I like the outdoors,
Mm.
that kind of a thing. So I'm imagining that kind of a thing. But just being there, I think that just being able to give guidance and support and to yeah, I'm not sure what the categories of types are.
Mm.
I certainly
I
don't
don't know.
want to be.
Maybe Dr. Anderson Atkinson could help us in that area with the different
Well,
types of fathers.
Well, there are many ways to father, so you don't have to try to fit yourself in a category. But
Mhm.
certainly, the fathers that are the most impactful in relation to positive developmental and emotional outcome are fathers that are emotionally attuned. So they're fathers who are physically there, but they're not emotionally there. And
Mm.
children who live in homes where that is so, they can sometimes they have an even more challenging outcome than fathers who were physically absent from the home, but who they had a measure of emotional connection with. So it's so very important as we talk about manhood and fathering that we prioritize emotional presence and attunement, and also just
Dr.
consideration.
Anderson, could you just hold that point as we're heading into our final break? I'm so sorry.
Sure.
This is family time on Love 101, and we're also live on Facebook and YouTube, and we're produced by Family Life Ministries. What are you looking forward to the most when you become a father? WhatsApp us and let us know at 876 997 3125, or call the studio lines at 968-8327 to participate. We will be back soon with our guests. Don't go anywhere.
Rise with the sun and face the day with some Lasco instant chocolate. Pull a pack, stir it up. Hot or cold, enjoy the chocolatey goodness any time of the day and unleash instant smiles, instant happiness.
Here's why you can't afford to miss the Morning Watch.
I love listening to the Morning Watch because topics are discussed and issues are highlighted that are of major importance, which in turn edify me.
The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays.
I like listening to the Morning Watch. I find it very informative. I find it very interesting. The topics that are covered are very, very wide.
The Morning Watch, thought-provoking, insightful, current. Listen for the probing questions with Attorney at Law Stokely Marshall and the in-depth discussion with Reverend Dr. Darlene Toussaint. On Tuesdays, the Morning Watch is brought to you by Holtz Hardware, the leader in electrical building and everything for the home, and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, achieving prosperity through partnership and development. The Morning Watch, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. The Morning Watch is on the family station Love 101.
Welcome back to Love 101. You are tuned in to Family Time, and we are discussing becoming a father. Family Time is brought to you by Family Life Ministries, which provides counseling for people with all kinds of challenges from all walks of life. Listen out for our numbers in Kingston and Portmore at the end of the program. And remember, we're live on Facebook and YouTube, so tune into the program on the Love 101 Facebook page and YouTube challenge. Today, we're discussing becoming a father with our special guests, Dr. Claudine Anderson Atkinson, a counseling psychologist, and Elder Richard Brown, a father-to-be. Just before we went to our break, Dr. Anderson Atkinson was discussing further how the types of fathers exist and kind of breaking up the notion that there is a type or various categories of fathers. I want to also pull on you, what other fallacies or just notions that maybe we have heard in our society about fatherhood. I know one I've heard is that when you become a father, you have no social life. Everything is about your child, and you're just condemned to that role and nothing more.
That is tragic. That's tragic, because in order to father well and to enjoy the challenges and opportunities of fathering, it's so important that we exercise self-care. So you need to still engage in activities that you find pleasurable and that keeps you connected to your network of support. Sure, parenting is involving, especially as with a new baby. I have a 2-year-old, and younger children, because of their limited independence, they require more. But it just means that you have to draw on the supports that you have access to, because if you're not well physically and emotionally and socially, then you're not able to give off your best. So it's unfortunately, fatherhood and having a new child can cause our relationships to suffer and cause us to be less connected and less well, because of how we navigate that. It isn't automatic. We've been talking throughout the program about intentionality. So even if you happened onto fatherhood, it really requires intention to maintain balance for your own well-being, for your relationship, for your role as a father. So enjoy, but know that because this little one isn't able to care for themselves, then you have to prioritize their well-being and figure out strategies. There's also the notion that if you're not well-resourced financially, that you can't be a good father. Absolutely not. I grew up very humble humbly financially, but I had a father who I could see his consistent efforts to provide and be present in the ways that he could. Now we have different fathers have different personalities. You're not going to all our fathers is going to naturally be emotionally connected and attuned. Some have to work on it, and it's
Yeah.
very effortful. And it's interesting because your children will love you. They're born to love you and to be attached to you, and they will value the attempts. You have fathers who are naturally more extroverted, and if you have children who are naturally extroverted, then you have a natural match. But it's figuring out and knowing that at different stages children need different things, and giving and taking and investing in the relationship with the mother of your child. That's critical. When the relationship is chaotic and emotionally tense, we can also cause damage to our children. So there are many ways to father. The important thing is be as connected as you can be and see that as a growth edge. Utilize your resources to be as connected as you can be. Provide as best as you can for all their needs, and model connection and relationship, because that's a resource and a skill that is valuable throughout their lives.
I hear some recurring points throughout our discussion. The fact that we need a community. And that old adage that says it takes a village to raise a child. And I would even say that to become a father, you need to start pulling on resources before you get to that point. Because, even in that first week, just to move from getting the child from the hospital to home, you may need some additional support to really achieve that successfully. Elder Brown, how is it that you are contemplating the type of father you want to be? You said you want to be someone that is supportive. You are looking forward to some outdoor activities. Dr. Anderson Atkinson mentioned something that I know must tug at some persons, where she mentioned that extroverted personality. And if a child has an extroverted personality, it creates a bond. But many times in Jamaica, we'll say, no, oh, the picnic comes so, because there is such a stark difference in our personality. How is it that you are preparing yourself if that eventuality comes, and also if the more positive one occurs?
Well, I think the first thing for me is just to have a kind of openness. Um, you know, I've can I say that I've been an uncle many times. I've been the last one, so I know being an uncle doesn't really qualify as a father, but I have seen different, of my nieces and nephews grow up, and they're different, as I said, they're different, and so you always have to have an open mind in terms of what the different needs of the child is and how they're different. Male female differences also are significant. I think though, what I've been trying to do also is to, I guess kind of renew my understanding, or to not really renew. I would say learn then about being a father, or being a parent. And there's one particular, I think it was a video that I came across, and it mentioned that regardless of the type of child, there are two important things that, in terms of growing a child, that you want to have, and they're like the two guardrails. You must have love and you must have discipline. And I think that for me is what I remember the most, that you have to, and they have to be balanced. So they have to know that you love them, you're giving them that emotional support, but they also have to know that whenever it's called for, there's the level of discipline that is there, that is needed, that you also give them that guidance as well. So those two guardrails are what was shared as important and I think that impacted me, because it give you that vision of a car on the road, and the balance needed. So you can't over discipline, or you can't over love. Either of those end up with a. And so that's one thing that I learned recently. That kind of put my view. I put in I remind myself of, in terms of looking at viewing becoming a father. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that, because when you think about those two, you need both to really effectively father. You can't be one that is so strict where the child, sorry, always moves away from you. And you can't be so loving that there is no discipline in the house, because either too much of one thing, as we'd say in Jamaica, not good for you, you know. And sometimes it may not be the discipline that others are expecting of the father, but you know yourself as a father, and you also have to come to peace with who you are. Because as the kids would say, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this, but on TikTok they have this thing where you give the bombastic side eye. Just a look. And some fathers, that's all they do. And then they leave the speaking to the mother or so, but just the look of a father. And if that is who the father to be is, he has to come to peace with that. I wish we had more time, because there's so much to say on this topic, especially in our society. But I'll just give a minute to each of you, just a minute, just to present one encouragement or tip to a father to be. Elder Brown, you could go first.
Well, as a father to be, I would say in one thing I've learned in the last couple of months is that pregnancies are not always as smooth as you expect them to be. And so, if there's a tip I could leave, is that be ready in that mindset, because you may be called upon to run the house by yourself, because there are challenges and that can that do come out of pregnancy that are sometimes unexpected. So that's one experience for me that I've encountered so far. And so be ready to be in charge of a house, and to give that kind of support, because you never know what may happen when your wife get pregnant.
Yeah, very true. Dr. Anderson Atkinson.
Yes, and just that, with all the responsibilities and challenges of fatherhood, that fatherhood can be a gift. It can be a gift for you and your network. This can be what pivots you to becoming even a better version of yourself. Even if you're lacking all the models of what an ideal father is, we have the perfect example of our heavenly Father that is in the Bible, that we can emulate and pull on. We can pray for the strength and wisdom that we lack, and He's able to give us exceedingly and abundantly more than we can think or imagine. We can arm ourselves with the strength that is resident in the Holy Spirit and receive of that gift, even through the crucibles and challenges that inevitably will come with fatherhood. Exercise lots of grace with yourself. It's a learning curve. You're going to make mistakes. That's a part of the journey, and you can grow, and your relationships can deepen as you learn more about yourself and more about the journey of fathering.
Thank you. That's an excellent way to begin our wrap up. I want to thank both of you, Elder Brown and Dr. Anderson Atkinson. And thank you, our listeners, for being here with us this evening. If you have questions of a personal nature, or maybe you're concerned about a friend or family member, pardon me, call us at Family Life Ministries. For our center in Portmore at 117 Cecile Avenue, call 876-939-7917. For information on our services, or for our counselors in Kingston and other parts of the island, contact our head office at 876-920-1034 or 926-8101. Note that appointments can only be made by calling the offices. And before we leave, here's this evening's Bible verse. It comes from 2 Samuel chapter 7, verse 14 to 15. I will be a father to him, and he'll be a son to me. When he does wrong, I'll discipline him in the usual ways, the pitfalls and obstacles of this mortal life. But I'll never remove my gracious love from him. Join us again next week at 5:30 on Love 101 Facebook and YouTube. And we want to say thanks to our special guests again, Dr. Claudine Anderson Atkinson and Elder Richard Brown. Thanks also to our show producer, Kathy Gale, Open Door Communications, our studio facilitator, Timoy Butler, and of course you. Stay well, stay safe. I've been Zidane. Have a good evening.